Hi, Eric. Can you
Hi,
hear me?
Emery. How you doing, hon? Good to see you.
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Yeah,
It's
not
so good to
bad.
see you.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure.
And for those that will be catching this after, thank all of them as well for joining us. I
You
hope
bet.
that I hope that our conversation will shed some light in a dark space. And are you hearing me okay, Eric?
I am. I wanted to check to make sure that my earphones were working properly. That just hopefully will blot out outside noise. I think we're okay. If you can hear me.
I can hear you very well. So let me know because I think that some people have struggled hearing me in with my computer for some reason. So I can always lean in.
Okay. Now I have to tell you and this happens. So I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to run and unplug my printer. It says my internet connection is unstable, which happens because I only have broadband. But hold on just a minute. If I turn off a couple of things here, hopefully that'll help. Just a second.
Okay.
I thought I had done this ahead of time and I forgot. It was on my checklist. Okay. So far we're looking good.
Good. Wonderful. All right. So what I'd really like to do first is invite you and everyone who will be listening to come into a centered place so that we can really engage in this conversation authentically from a deep place of wisdom.
Terrific.
So if I could invite you and anyone who will be watching to take a moment just to come into center, feeling into your breath, feeling the connection of your sit bones and your feet with the chair and with the floor. Let's just take a moment to breathe and let that busy mind settle so that we can be present with the important work that we're doing here today with each other. Thank you so much for doing that with me. I find that it really is helpful to connect with others.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a great moment for reflection.
I hope so. So what helps for you to come into some kind of a center? How do you find your center, especially now?
I think we all struggle with that. There are so many ups and downs. It's such a roller coaster. And so when I feel that need to just pause for a moment, the best thing I do is they're laying right over here, right by my side, and
Oh,
that would be my two dogs. Yep, they're the best, and they truly. That might seem odd, but when we slow down for a minute and we connect with the things that are important. Of course, my family is another great way to find center, and being physical is good. If I can get out in the garden, that's always a great way, or just a good walk. Exercise, although I find that more difficult to do in my home. I was
mhm.
better when I could go someplace.
Oh,
So,
interesting. Interesting.
mhm.
I think that for me, I really enjoy the connection with people that I have a relationship with outside of this strange COVID space.
Mhm.
But I enjoy being able to connect with them while I'm at home.
Uh-huh. Okay, that's nice.
So, what is it for you, if you don't mind sharing, that is an indicator that you need to take some time to, set those boundaries or to come back into center with yourself?
I will find that my brain starts racing faster than I can execute things. Frequently, it happens for me when I'm at the computer, when I'm working and I'm trying to take care of eight things at once. And we think, okay, well, during this time, work must be easier, especially for a teacher, right? And I think that it's not, because you have to think about every single paradigm that could happen as the students respond to the lessons that you're trying to create and that you're trying to promote. And so there's so many different things to do to make sure that it rolls out properly and that they're able to process and respond and learn. And so I find I get extremely almost scatterbrained when I'm running from this assignment to this posting to this assignment. And I think that that's when I find myself very tense and my brain starts to not focus. And I have to say to myself, wait a minute here, wait a minute, let's take a step back. So then I'll put things down. As I said, go to the dogs or go to the walk, or I try not to eat, but that's a tough one.
Those like sort of old, I do the same thing. I find your connection between technology use and noticing that you're out of center to be a really interesting connection.
It happens. I just notice that it happens there more than any place else. It will happen as I'm getting the errands for the day done, or specific things. But those tend to be more of simple task-oriented things. So you're not so much there. But absolutely with the computer, with the way that we're all connecting, we're not used to this way of connecting. And so we're learning. There's a learning curve to it.
I would really love to sort of shift the conversation in that direction at this point. So I'm really curious, and I think our listeners will be as well. What has this time been like for you? What are you experiencing?
It is unprecedented. I've been teaching for 27 years, and it is an unprecedented time. And not just for music teachers, of course, for all educators. We know that online learning is not new, but it's a new format for many educators to have it be the 100% way to teach. And so there are so many challenges. There's such a learning curve to doing it, and then to doing it correctly and doing it well. And then to make sure that the students aren't receiving busy work for the sake of work, but especially work that's meaningful or that will be meaningful and that will help them to learn. And I think especially as a music educator, so many of our music classes in education in secondary school are really based on, they're a performance-based classroom. So we always have a performance in mind. And right now we don't have that performance in mind. And that's actually okay. We just have to make sure that we're still challenging our students to learn and grow as musicians and as performers without that festival is coming up, or fall concert is coming up, or spring concert, or whatever. And so that makes it a real challenge.
I feel like I'm hearing a couple of different things in this. Like there is almost like the beginner teacher learning curve. Like
absolutely,
you're in a space of creating a mode of doing something completely different. And where is the grace in that for yourself? Because we all know that when you are in the process of trying to learn something new, that takes up an incredible amount of energy just in your physiology, trying to wrap your mind around it. And I loved what you said. Gosh, I feel like that's a good point to pause and let you respond.
Yeah, it's interesting. I will, because I think that one of the things that, because we're educators, and as such, I think we're such lifelong learners, just in general, all of us, we want to learn, and we want to learn to do it correctly so that it affects our students. So one of the things I've noticed is that my community of educators, and I will include my wife, who is a fifth grade teacher, and all my amazing music colleagues and friends, as we continue to communicate and share, okay, well, this is how I'm going to approach it? Or have you tried this particular format or this particular way? And so you end up with this, oh no, I'm not doing that. I don't know that. I have to learn that. That sounds great. I have to try that. And so you almost tend, you feel kind of like you're reaching out at several different areas. And at some point, again, coming back to your center, you have to take a breath and say, I'm going to do it this way in these 2 or 3 ways that I'll either find very effective or then move on to another thing. And I think because we want so much to do what's great for kids, sometimes we can grasp at too many straws.
Mm-hmm.
I've found, at least I have, I keep faulting myself for what I don't know. And I have to be comfortable enough to say, this is what I am doing, and I hope that it's working right for my kiddos.
In what ways is this experience right now almost magnifying some of those old habits or patterns that, I don't know if it was like this for you, but I noticed that there was like a moment at the beginning of this quarantine where everybody could kind of pause and things could kind of settle down. And we had that moment to reflect and say, oh, I see that there are old ways that I was operating, that I don't want to be in that pattern anymore. But then all of a sudden, okay, here we go. Now you have this new thing to try to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
How are some of the old habits that you're wanting to let go of, maybe even showing up more strongly as like this old habit is really hanging on tight? Is any of that showing up for you?
I haven't, very honestly, I haven't noticed that so much, and that could be due to my lack of reflection. And so we've been trying so much just to, excuse me, just to jump ahead and get on top of things. Except to say, there are a lot of different venues coming around. For instance, how would a virtual ensemble work? And this is specific to the music classroom. And virtual ensembles work in a very specific way, and we're still trying to figure out how to apply them. And for me, letting go of that and realizing that just meeting the individual growth needs of each, I'll say vocalist, but we know that that's instrumentalist. We know that that's any young musician, meeting their needs and creating lessons that will be hopefully valuable through their process is really kind of what I've had to let go of that. We're not going to put something together to perform. And we can, it's a nice experience, but that's more of a, I would almost say, enrichment as opposed to measure growth.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know that, what I'm putting out there is what everybody's going to experience anyway. And I'm really hoping that in this space, we are able to bring in so many different perspectives, because through this community, we can really start to make sense of what we're in and try to be more proactive in moving forward. I'm hearing such a beautiful, in what you're saying, I feel like you're really focusing in more on the individual and serving others.
I hope that that's the case. And again, I think that this is all so new that we're learning as we go, all of us. And I also think, especially if you are a very seasoned teacher, and I say that instead of old, if you were a seasoned teacher, you were pretty set in your ways. And it's a real challenge to say, okay, we're really going to do this different now, or differently. And that's not a bad thing. It's great for us. Again, if we can accept the adaptations, if we can accept and say, okay, now is time for something different. And then maybe letting go. Maybe when it's hard to look ahead and say when this is all over. We know that things will be different for a long time. But maybe when things swing back toward what we used to consider normal, I already look as though I have a whole new way that I could continue with my students. There should be an online portion, or there should be an enrichment portion outside of the classroom that focuses differently. And I think that's really helped all of us to grow, to be able to do both. That's a good thing.
I love that. So moving forward, as you sort of envision what could possibly be, what do you hope you'll be able to do differently, or what do you hope to carry forward with your students?
I've certainly, I was not an educator who, most of my assessment was in the classroom. And this new way has certainly opened up the practice of having students submit videos and or an audio to do more class or more out of class assessment. I think this has opened up a tremendous bank of two things, of learning, perhaps not in the traditional way. And for many people, we know that kind of instruction actually works better. And I'm not saying that it should take the place of in-class personal instruction. I'm saying it can really help enrich that learning. And then the other thing is, I think that we're going to be even more open to how we share what we teach, because it's not just, here's a video of what I do. It's, here's a lesson that I've created that can be utilized with any student anywhere. And so I hope it will open up that venue of sharing across venues to teacher, or across, art medium. Be good.
This community space on Facebook might be a place for some of those ideas to begin to be shared as well. And if you, I would love to know, and I think the listeners as well, what resources are at your disposal for sharing those types of things. Like, where would someone go? Where would you send them?
That has been a real challenge. Now, I have seen many of the companies have really tried to step forward. Many of the educational companies and publishing companies have tried to step forward and say, hey, here's a great resource. Here's a great resource. And simply because of the time that we've had to quickly change over, I've not done a lot of research in that area. I've saved a lot of resources that I can go back and look at. But right now I know what our curriculum says we want to finish by the end of the year. And so what I've been doing is I've been making a lot of the assignments myself, and then using some online resources, a video here. And, I know a lot of the teachers, a lot of the music teachers have been using, some use Flipgrid, which is a normal educational format. And some of them are really using to teach Screencastify, and I've used that. Some are using, I wish I could, they talk about it, Smart Music. Lots of our instrumental teachers are using that and finding that really, really helpful. So that's terrific. And I know that they're also creating the vocal format, so I'm excited about that. But I think one of the things we find ourselves all doing is listen, every educator has difficulty, but we also know that lots of other subjects have a textbook, even a textbook that's online you can connect the lesson to. We don't necessarily have that in music. And so we're trying to, all music teachers are trying to create lessons and connect them to things we're just reaching out for. So I think that'll get even better as we go.
Beautiful. I love the positivity in that. I would like to circle back because I loved what you said about you're noticing that this format is serving some students better than what we used to do. Can you speak more to that and what the needs are of students that you're seeing arise out of this pandemic?
In two different ways. I can explain in class a lesson, a music theory lesson that will not get through to a particular student because of several issues. They have a hard time paying attention. They're not an auditory learner. They are distracted by something else. Who knows? Lots of different reasons. And yet when they come home and they can go onto the computer, which is something they do daily, that's part of their young life, and they can click follow a lesson down musictheory.net or some other venue, suddenly those things all line up and click for them. It works. And so that's one example. Now, I'm not saying that that's the best way to do it. What I am saying is that verbal instruction, demonstration, with a combination of an online format, I think if we were to continue to combine those, and many teachers already do, but remember, I'm kind of old school. I tend to do it right in the classroom. And some tend to just say that's the online portion you have to do, but I think combination works well. Singing wise or performance wise, I've noticed that kids are far less nervous about uploading a performance video. And when I say performance, I mean, here's an exercise I'd like you to perform at your best for a particular assignment and possibly for a grade. And when they can practice it a couple times, when they can create a video, oh, that one didn't, I don't like that one, let me redo it. Oh, let me redo it. Okay, that one I'm happy with. When they're able to, some who would never, especially singing, I do think singing just becomes, it's so personal for some kids, even though they're fabulous singers, it petrifies them to sing in front of the class. A video like this, they're much more comfortable.
They have a little bit more control.
They have more control. And let's be honest, we all want that. We all want to control what we put out. So
beautiful. I'm getting so much out of this connection with you, so I really appreciate you taking this time.
Oh, it's awesome. I love it.
I kind of want to go to some of the questions that we had started talking about. In terms of like carrying forward for people. What do you think that music educators might need to be positioning themselves more powerfully in this time?
I think that one of the most important things, I think so many times through the best intentions, our communities tend to look at music programs as they tend to look at them as, isn't it great our music programs get straight ones at festival? Isn't it great that our music programs give these fabulous fall or holiday concerts or spring concerts? Isn't it wonderful to see my child up on stage performing? And those are all really valuable things. But I think we as a community are going to have to help our administrators and our parents and our communities understand that right now, at least for the next foreseeable future, music education needs to remain prominent as part of a well-rounded curriculum, not for this child being on stage and performing, but for what music is to the human existence, for what music is to the students that just need that output every day, that ability to create, and for the intrinsic reward of that. And then also because we know what it does for their lives in so many other ways. So I think that we'll have to recap, I think we have to be creative. We're gonna have to be smart, and we're gonna have to unite in this message that right now your child may not be able to perform in the ensemble on the stage, and that's okay, because that was really only one of the perks all along. It's the thing you saw a lot, and that's awesome. It's the thing you loved, but there's so much more, and we can't remove this.
I'm hearing like just this, I'm hearing this deepening these are the philosophical conversations that we would have as musicians and as music educators
Mm-hmm.
that can be so challenging for us to, express to our audiences, to our families and community, to the administrators that pull, the purse strings that make these big decisions for our kids and for ourselves. So what a beautiful opportunity this can be for us to all deepen and really invite those audiences into having that deeper conversation, to having that deeper, meaningful connection.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that it is our opportunity, and I believe that especially at this time, it is our what do I want to say? I think that it's imperative that we make sure people remember how important it is.
It's not just about the data, the numbers, the grade.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's about this intrinsic humanness that music brings.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. And that does not mean that we don't want them to be literate musicians. That doesn't mean that we don't want them to be proficient technically at the instrument that they choose. Those are all very important things, and we will continue to teach those things. But right now we're going to look at a bigger picture. And I love your words about we'll stop and we'll step back and we'll say,
it's almost like this informs that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a time now to remember the other side of things, the other side of the whole piece.
Exactly.
What resources do you find are helping you through this time?
Now, can I just ask for clarification?
Yeah,
me
absolutely.
personally, me as an me with what I put out to kids. Help me.
You as a person, you as an educator, you that you put out to kids. What are you finding is really supporting you?
Well, my number one biggest support are my amazing colleagues. I mean, truthfully, that is the case. And I feel so blessed to be in TCAPS where we have teams of musical colleagues, and we have, close teams. For instance, I have the choral team, but I also have the instrumental, team, and then the elementary, and all of us together. And it's like this, it's this ripple of great people that are so smart and so educational. And so that's a big support. But I would also say we have the teams of the friends and colleagues that we went to college with, that we've stayed in touch with, that we also teach with, that we know from our greater communities. And I've so much depended on how wise they are and what they bring to the table to help me construct the lessons that will move forward. So I think that's a great thing.
What types of resources, how would you recommend that someone connect in with those types of community supports for someone who maybe doesn't feel that they have the depth or the breadth of support within their own educational community that you feel that you have? Where could they find that?
I know that, for instance, in the vocal, I have to speak from the vocal standpoint, from the vocal world, but MSVMA, the Michigan School Vocal Music Association, has had a couple of forums where a Zoom chat where you all jump online and you all just kind of open it up. Okay, here we go. ACDA has had that. American Choral Directors Association has had that. They've actually had a webinar last week that was a little scary, to be very honest with you, about how vocalizing, how singing is deep breathing and what that means in terms of what we share in the air, and how we're going to have to structure what we do as vocal musicians in the future. But then again, okay, we're all in this together. How do we unite and get creative about this? So again, you have to be willing to be open to the bad news and the good news and how you can make it all work. So So those kinds of organizations are great. I think are helpful. MASTA, or MSBOA, NAFME is certainly an incredible organization, and they post lots of different ways and open up sharing venues. And if you're not a member of those associations, then it might be, I would think, who could you go back to? Who was somebody that was a colleague or a friend in college that you could quick shoot an email? I think we are all during this time very open to, hey, haven't talked to you in forever. Here's what I'm going through. We all need it. We need to share right now. We can't be alone. We can't be an island.
Beautiful. Love it. I love what you talked about. There are things that we're scared of looking at. There are possibilities that we don't want to consider, but in order to really move forward in the best possible way, you have to look at all of it. You might have to shatter some old paradigms that aren't going to work, because if we're holding on to ways that are based on limited knowledge, it isn't going to work.
Yeah, it's frightening for us. Yeah.
Let's look at that hard stuff too, but let's not do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of your guilty pleasures that are getting you through right now?
Okay. Well, I don't know if this is a guilty pleasure. I cook. I love to, it's that creative outlet to be able to just slow down, task orient, just kind of one step at a time. So that helps. Garden, be out in the yard, really getting things done and put together. That's helpful.
Are you a recipe follower?
I am a rule breaker. Like, I'll start with a recipe and I'll be like, no, this will be better.
I love it.
And then I'm not a social media person. I'm not on any social media, so it's kind of funny. But I will say that I am on Pinterest. So I'm like one of those, I need a little calm. I need to look for a lot of little houses. Someday I want to live in a little house, and I'm just gonna like look at little houses. Or how could I replant that garden, that particular bed in the yard. So, those are the kinds of things that I tend to.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Do you have like a favorite recipe that you've tweaked that you could maybe share with us?
Oh my gosh. No, but I will say, no, I'm so sorry, but I'll share with you my epic fail.
Please do.
my daughter adores crepes. She loves crepes. And so I've been really upping the crepe ante and getting really good at them. So I guess maybe there's that. But I saw this amazing recipe for not sweet crepe, but savory crepe. You make a lasagna out of crepes instead of noodles. So last night I made a crepe lasagna, and it tasted fabulous. It was very, very tasty. The texture is a little chewy. Crepes with a lot of goo all over them and sauce. Maybe I didn't do it right, but anyway, there's my epic fail.
What did Ella think of it?
She said, "Dad, it tastes great. It's a little chewy." The texture, I don't think I can get past the texture, Dad. That's okay.
I love it. I'm so grateful for you to have taken this time and share with me and share with all of our audiences, what you're experiencing and what's bringing you joy. I think that's very important. So thank you so much for serving us.
You always bring me back to center, Anne-Marie. Speaking with you is always the best. I mean it. You have such a gift, and I'm so grateful to you. It's so good that we've reconnected a little bit through this, because I forget what an amazing human you are. Yeah, you're incredible.
Thank you. So, okay, we're going to kind of wrap up. I thank you very much. That's very sweet.
My pleasure. Yeah.
How can we serve you moving forward? What can we do for you?
Again, I think that the most important thing that anybody could do for me, but as we do for each other, is to come together as musicians, as a music community. And that doesn't mean just the educators. It means the people that love music and what music is in their lives, to make sure that we stay relevant in our schools and with our private teachers and with the musicians. That what we don't want to do is take 2 steps back during this difficult time in what music is for kids, because we're gonna panic, and when we panic, we lose sight of really important things. So if we work together as musicians, all of us, to say this is important, keep it moving forward, I think that would be what anybody could do for me and for each other.
Thank you so much.
No, my pleasure. I really had a great time.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and post this up on the Facebook group. And if there are any resources or things that you think of later that you would like for me to share, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know.
Okay, will do.
And I hope that you and your family and your community will be well moving forward. So
You too, my friend.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Take
All
care.
right, we'll talk with you very soon. All right.
Bye-bye.